Dave, you were live. Which venue though? Greensboro or Atlanta?
I was in Greensboro.
Okay, so you weren't able to take in the scaffolding.
I saw it on the screen, and
It's out on
it
the
was.
screen. Yep.
I mean, it was.
What was this about, Dave? What the
Well,
hell?
they did this. The scaffold match was Bill Dundee's idea. In theory, Jerry Jarrett and maybe Don Green had the first match in '72, but I think that we found a scaffold match in '58
Wow.
that actually happened before then. I don't even remember where, but we found like evidence of it. But nobody knew it. But Bill Dundee knew it because they would do it in it was a regular Memphis gimmick that they would do every couple of years. And Bill Dundee, who was I think Bill Dundee like worked at the circus when he was young, and he wasn't afraid of heights at all. So it became like Bill Dundee's like specialty match, like he could do it. So then when Bill Dundee was booking, they did it with Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express one year at the Superdome, and it got over really really well. So Dusty took the idea with Midnight Express and the Road Warriors, and outside of Mid South and Memphis, nobody ever heard of a scaffold match. It's never been done. So it's essentially it's a new gimmick, and you have Jim Cornette. You have Jim Cornette, who was just tremendous in his role, and the match as I remember it was scary as hell to watch
Yeah.
because Bobby Eaton and I think it was still Dennis, wasn't it? Or was it Stan? I don't even remember now.
Are you talking about the Midnight Express was Eaton and Condrey?
Yeah, in that match because Stan came later. And they
Yes.
did okay, so yeah, because I seem to remember Dennis and Bobby doing this incredible job, and I'm scared to death that they're going to kill each other or kill themselves every time they're hanging there from way up. And
Oh yeah.
oh, it was like scaffold matches are almost always horrible. And I don't know, I've never looked at that one again, but I can just tell you that match live when I saw it, it was thrilling as hell.
Is that
And
right?
then oh, it was like because you're just so scared of, and Hawk's working with a broken leg, which nobody knows, but
Oh
I knew it.
jeez.
I mean, so that made it even more, that made it scary. And they're out there up there, and it's so small, and what if somebody trips and everything? And then they do the match and they go through all this high wire craziness, and nobody gets hurt, and then it's over, and we're it's fine. And then all of a sudden they chase Jim Cornette up there. It's like Jim Cornette's up there, and it's like this guy's gonna fall off. He's gonna kill himself, right? So he comes up there, and they throw him off, and he goes down, and it was just like I thought he broke his tailbone, but he actually blew out his knees. But I remember watching it going like when he landed, because the theory was that Big Bubba was going to catch him, and he didn't. But I remember when he went down, and it was just like, okay, now I thought that, I thought like again, I thought he was hurt really, but he was hurt really bad. It was like, now you've really done it. It's like, this was a bad idea. Ever since then, I've always hated scaffold matches
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just like the risk is too high. You get some, I remember when, Powers of Pain were going to work with Road Warriors in scaffold matches, and they quit the promotion over it because they were going to have to take that bump. And these are 300-pound guys, and them taking that bump off that scaffold was not going to be good. And they went. That's why the Powers of Pain went to WWF, was because they were booked in scaffold matches.
Oh man. Talk about fear of heights. Bill Dundee, they weren't, but certainly justified. Cornette goes on to tell the story that Ray Traylor basically told him, as if this is supposed to be solace, Jimmy, you fell so fast.
You fell too fast. Exactly.
Well, sorry about that, Ray. So main event, Ric Flair defends the championship against Nikita Koloff. It's my understanding that this was sort of envisioned as Ric Flair versus Magnum TA prior to the accident we talked about.
Yes, it would have been Magnum TA, and it probably would have been championship change too, because it was right about the time.
Sure. How was Koloff getting the shot received?
Well, it was pretty big. They'd done Flair and Nikita with when Flair was the babyface and Nikita was the heel, and had done great business. The show was really built so much around that scaffold match, I think, is the real thing. But having been there, I mean, Flair and Nikita was just because it was the world championship and the world title was over and Ric Flair was over, and I'm watching in Greensboro, which is a Ric Flair city anyway. And Nikita had just turned, so he was pretty hot. But you still had there were a lot of people who were cheering for Flair, and a lot of people who were and I'll tell you the one thing that's amazing is in Greensboro, in that building, the matches on the screen and the matches live, the heat was equal. It wasn't.
Wow.
I mean, it was like the people saw those matches. Like because I think our main event, if I remember, was maybe Rock and Roll Express against the Andersons.
Hmm.
We maybe we had Dusty and Tully. I think we had that one, the first blood match. But I mean, the scaffold match in Flair and Nikita had more heat than anything in Greensboro, and we're watching it on TV. Um,
Wow.
the people took to it as they were. It was everything was live. It was weird. Um, but yeah, no, that match had great heat. It was a very good match, very long. I think it started around midnight, and nope. I mean, I just remember we got out of that building at 12:35. There was 16,000 in the little under 16. Sold out in the Coliseum, and there was 3 or 4,000 sold out in the theater next door, and nobody left early. I mean, I just remember thinking it's 12:35, and there's tons of kids here, and it's Thanksgiving night. Um, but so it's a holiday night. But I'm thinking, like there's all these little kids here, and I mean, nobody went home early. I was so fascinated by it because I'd never seen a card, I don't think, ever last that long in my life, or last that long or go that. It's a 4.5 hour show, but I also don't or ever go that late because I remember like I had gone to matches that had gone past 11 when we would have a 60-minute main event, but not 12:30.
Yeah, that's amazing. We start to see here Jim Crockett start the acquisition phase. He buys into Kansas City, and Kansas City is among the cities that has a closed circuit screening of Starrcade '86, and in fact has some matches leading up to the screening. Was there buzz that Crockett buying into Kansas City was him trying to duplicate Vince in whatever way he could manage?
Well, the Kansas City thing was the Kansas City thing was the idea of a developmental territory. So it's kind of like the idea that,
Oh,
and Dusty wanted to send, some guys that he wasn't using that were veterans, to kind of be the veterans there. But the idea was for Kansas City is you would take the young guys like Sam Houston, who he wanted to make, maybe a new Barry Windham. But there were so many great stars on the main roster that they were going to get lost in the shuffle. So it was a chance to make them battle for the Central States Championship and get practice promoing and drawing every week. But it didn't work because they didn't draw. I mean, that's what happened. But the Crockett and Kansas City thing was to establish, to establish a developmental territory where they would have guys, they would work there for a year, and then they would come over and have the experience of main eventing promos. And that would be where they would get the new young stars and mix things in. But they shut it down really quick because it was losing too much money.